53-year-old Big Pan was shot and killed during a home invasion on November 8, 2010. Her husband Han Pan was shot in the head but survived. Their daughter Jennifer was also in the house but was unhurt.
When a daughter is the only one to survive a home invasion, the police start to ask questions and turn their sights on her. Let's deep dive into the interrogation of Jennifer Pan, an innocent victim or a cold-blooded killer. Get comfy because this is going to be an interesting one. Welcome to the Crime House. Let's rewind to 2010. Jennifer Pan was a 24-year-old student and the daughter of strict Asian immigrants. They had high expectations of their daughter Jennifer as they left everything behind so their children could succeed. She studied at the University of Toronto, so her parents thought. The pressure got to Jennifer and she began to live a double life, dropping out of school and lying to her parents for years. But what else could Jennifer be hiding?
I want to go through a form with you. It may seem kind of, why you're doing this, but this is it's like you're swearing to tell the truth about what you're going to talk to me about, and it's also going to explain to you the penalties for not telling the truth. I don't expect you to help me, but for a homicide investigation, anyone who's very close to the investigation, we do this with. Okay, so this isn't suspecting that you're not going to tell the truth. This is more of a feature that you understand the importance of telling the complete truth.
Jennifer is not a suspect at this moment. She is only giving a voluntary statement under oath. She's not informed of her rights to silence, but instead is told her rights as a witness. The detective goes on to explain to her her rights in a simpler form.
What I've just explained to you is you're here voluntarily to help us, that you don't have to talk to us if you don't want to, but the importance of talking to us, and if you're talking to us, the importance of telling the truth. And if you don't tell the truth, there's criminal consequences for not telling the truth. That's all that stuff had to deal with.
The investigator leaves to get the Commissioner of Oaths, which has the purpose of swearing in the witness. But he first brings in a box of Kleenex. Jennifer appears to get startled when the detective enters the room. This is a startle reflex, which can become hypersensitive after a traumatic event.
Hello, my name is Andrew Spiro. I'm a Commissioner of Oaths with York Regional Police. I'm here so you can give a truthful statement either by solemn affirmation or swearing on the Bible. Which do you prefer?
Swearing on the Bible.
Okay, just put your hand on the Bible. Do you, Jennifer Pan, swear that the evidence you shall give on this investigation shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Once Jennifer is sworn in, the lead detective returns to collect her statement.
Now I want you to sort of take yourself back to earlier on today, yesterday, meaning the 8th of November, and tell me about your day. Okay, start at any point in time, wherever you feel comfortable, and then we're gonna move forward. Okay.
Yesterday, probably around 9 o'clock in the morning, 9:30. My mother, she woke me up and she told me that she was going to visit my grandfather, who was ill.
Jennifer goes on to explain that throughout the day, she practiced piano, talked on the phone with her friends, and had dinner with her parents. Her mother left for line dancing at 7 p.m. and came back home around 9:30, while Jennifer was in her room watching TV and getting ready to go to sleep.
And then suddenly I just heard my mom calling for my dad to come down. And that's when I lowered the volume on my TV. And I could hear the voices weren't any voices I was very familiar with. And so I was scared and I couldn't move. I just sat in my room for a while. And then I thought I heard them all leave the top floor, and I peered out of my bedroom door. And a guy was there, and he came at me and had string in his hands and tied my arms back and said, "I have a gun behind your back. Do what I say. If you do what I say, then no one will get hurt." My mom kept trying to get up, and they kept telling her, sit down. And so I didn't want her to get hurt, so I told her, Mom, sit down. They were trying to find her wallet, but her English isn't good, so she kept saying purse. They kept pushing her down onto the chair.
Okay. Take your time. Take your time. All this is very important, so take your time.
Up to this point, Jennifer's behavior has been a normal reaction to the events that have played out. The detective's reflection of her mother's last moments seems to put her over the edge. We can assume that the detective sees her as a victim at this moment, but not for long.
They kept all the lights off on the main floor. The only time there was light was when they opened the fridge door to see if they could find where my mom's purse was.
Jennifer is distressed moments before, but then appears calm and finds her words easily and clearly, explaining moment by moment what happened that night. Generally, after a traumatic event, you would blurt out your emotions while trying to piece together what happened out loud. The detective began to find this behavior very unusual.
And then, for some reason, I think one of the gentlemen asked my father if he had money in his wallet and where his wallet was. So they took me, because I was next to the stairwell, they took me up the stairs to show them where my father's wallet was. But I didn't know. They had turned the room upside down. I didn't know where his pants were at that time.
The intruder takes $1,100 from the master bedroom and then ties Jennifer to the upstairs banister.
Next thing I know, I think I heard my parents going down the stairs, and my mom was asking them for me to come with them. They wouldn't let me come with them. And after they said, the last thing I heard them say was, you lied to us, you lied to us. And then I heard 2 pops. My mom screamed. I yelled out for her. And a couple more pops.
Take your time. Take your time.
And I think I heard my mom say or moan or something, and then they did one more before they left, and then one of the guys said, we have to go now, it's been too long. And then they ran out the door.
Jennifer clearly has her story straight and realizes how unusual it is that she was able to make a phone call while her hands were tied behind her back. Jennifer stutters, hesitates, and tries to seek approval from the detective as she tells the next part of this story.
And I think once they were out the door, I heard my dad go up the stairs, and at that point I had my phone on me, behind me, that I had hidden there that they didn't know about. So when I thought that they had heard them all leave and my dad ran up the stairs, I whipped up the phone and I called 911. But I still hadn't heard anything from my mom, and all I could hear was my dad running on the street, just moaning and making sounds.
The detective goes on to ask Jennifer detailed questions about the main suspect.
I don't remember any of his clothing, unfortunately. The only thing I can remember was he had dreadlocks.
He had dreadlocks. So can you describe his race to me?
He was black.
Was his head covered? Was his face covered? Do you remember anything about that?
Just that his dreadlocks were kind of flopping all over the place. I couldn't really see his face, and they kept the lights dark as much as possible. And all the money I showed him, he pocketed.
Okay. Did he have a gun?
Yes.
Did you see the gun?
I only saw the top part of the gun.
What did it look like?
It was black.
Yeah. So he's already on the upstairs.
Yeah.
Do you know where the other guys involved in this are?
I know one stayed with my parents downstairs.
Okay.
The other one, I'm not, at that point in time, I was more focused on him, he was seeing me and he was coming after me.
So you're saying there's 3 for sure?
Yeah.
That's all? You saw a total of 3 at one time? You saw 3 people together?
Yes, when I went downstairs, I saw 3 shadows.
She details the appearance of the other 2 suspects, who she insisted were also black males. The detective then circles back to the main suspect.
So he's taller than you, but not much.
Not much.
Okay. Now the first guy who spoke to you, what kind of, did he have any accent?
None that I could make out.
Was it clear English?
English.
Unbroken?
Unbroken.
No accent?
From the terms he used, I didn't get to pick up an accent, no. He used short phrases.
He sounded Canadian?
I would say, yes, he was born here.
She insists the second intruder didn't speak, while the third had a Caribbean accent. She then goes on to say that she was taken downstairs and saw her parents held hostage. Her father was asked where his wallet was, and he told him that it was in the master bedroom. So they took Jennifer upstairs to look for it, but they didn't find the wallet. But instead they retrieved a pile of cash found in the nightstand. They then tied Jennifer to the banister as the intruders went back down.
You get tied to the banister?
Yes.
Okay, continue.
And the next thing I can hear are them telling my parents to move to the basement.
Okay.
And I'm asking them, why? Where are you going? And my mom's yelling to me, I want my daughter. Why can't my daughter come too?
Jennifer hears one of the intruders say, "You lied to us."
Who do you hear yelling, "You lied to us," or to that extent?
Number 3.
Number 3.
I'm assuming it's to my father, because he was the one asking for the wallet.
And she drove tonight? Okay. So now you hear this commotion downstairs. You said you heard 2 pops. And you heard who scream?
My mom.
Your mom. And what was she screaming? Do you remember?
I couldn't make it out. It was kind of like a cry yell, so it was just...
Okay.
Basically, they had made the first round, or pop, and they had said, okay, that's enough. Let's go.
Who said that? Whose voice is that?
Number 1.
Okay.
And then I heard one more after that. And they were like, that's enough. Let's go.
Okay. And again, that's number 1.
Yes.
Now you hear your dad.
Yeah.
Right? And what's going on? So what do you hear next? After you hear the scrambling, they're gone. Because you're hearing no more. I gather that's how you assume they're gone, is because you don't hear it. Then you hear your dad.
I reached for my phone at that point.
And you call 911. Okay. Your father exits. You hear the door open because you hear your dog, and then
I can hear like the outside noises.
Okay.
Like the wind coming in, and I just hear my dad. I think he's.
You think that he's sustained some kind of injury because he's not. You can't understand what he's saying. Okay. What about can you hear your mom? Okay. Where does your dad go? Do you know where? You never see your dad again until when we're at the hospital. I think that's what you said, right?
I saw him when he was on the gurney, but the officers walked me around.
Is there any reason to suspect, or anything that's happened in the recent weeks leading up, that would have you guys be a target of some type of incident like this?
We live a straightforward, kind of almost routine life.
Jennifer smiles, and it takes her a couple of seconds to realize she's not using the right behavior for the situation.
What, in your opinion, would cause people to target your house to think there was a large quantity of money?
I'm not sure.
Now, you say your mom drives a Lexus.
It could be because of the aesthetics, yes.
What about your dad?
He drives a Mercedes, and he loves that baby.
Is that right?
The detective takes a break and leaves the room for half an hour to make sure he doesn't need any more information. After 15 minutes, Jennifer does another performance of the startle reflex, but only this time it is unnatural and less convincing. If the investigators were sure of Jennifer's innocence, this would have been the first and last time she would have been questioned. The interrogation would end here, but Jennifer would be called into the station only 2 days later. She was told that they needed further details of the night, but the real reason for this second interview was only to collect further information that could be used against her in court. As the detective's line of question changes, Jennifer begins to get nervous.
This is not new to you. We've done this once before, okay? I want to take, before we get this, try and take that first interview that we had, which was, hours after what had transpired, put it aside. It's almost like we've never spoken before, okay? So we're starting afresh. We're starting from new. That way you're not going to say, I think I already told him that. Don't worry about what you've already told me.
Do you, Jennifer Pan, swear or declare that the evidence that you give in this investigation shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Forgetting what you've already told me, and bring yourself through that day and through the event. And we'll see if we're going to see if we've learned or if you've remembered anything else. And there's some questions with respect to that statement that I'm going to ask you about. Okay, but I'm going to let you start again, and let's move forward from any time in that day where you want to start. If it's the time you woke up or if it's the time that your first interaction, it's your choice.
Okay, I'm very nervous, and
Why are you nervous? Tell me about why you're nervous.
Because I don't want to say the wrong things. Because that day was a lot.
You're right.
And I've been scattered, and so bits and pieces are here and some pieces aren't here, and I'm just...
So, I want you to sit back in your chair, okay? Just sit back in your chair, take a deep breath, okay? Close your eyes, just follow my line, just sit back in the chair for a second, sit back, relax, the best you can, close your eyes, and just breathe for a minute, okay?
Jennifer continues to hold her hands tight during the interview, which is a self-pacifying gesture. In most cases, the person is extremely uncomfortable and fearful for what is to come.
What I can remember is when I woke up, I had some breakfast, and I went upstairs to do some piano history, and I was on the computer.
She goes on to explain her day again. Her father gets home from work at 4:30, and dinner is served an hour after that. Her mother leaves for line dancing at 7 and returns at 9:30. At that time, Jennifer is in her room watching TV. Her father is downstairs in the computer room. She then hears her mother yell out to her father.
The next thing I remember is my mother calling down for my father.
What is she saying?
She's calling him by his name and to come down.
Okay, so give us verbatim, what do you hear her saying? Is it in the Vietnamese, Chinese, or
Yes,
is it in English?
It's in Vietnamese.
Okay, and what do you hear her say?
In Vietnamese? She's like, Hanoi, xuống đây.
She is clearly aware that she has to seem mournful in this moment, completely grief-stricken. But once the investigator starts to ask questions, this grief rapidly disappears.
And what does that translate to?
That's my father's name, Han. Come down here.
Does she say anything else associated with that?
I can't hear clearly because, I was on the phone and the TV was on,
Sure.
but that's what I heard.
Is she yelling? Or is it normal?
It's a loud, she's not yelling, but it's a loud tone.
Once she hears her mom yelling, she hangs up the phone with her friend.
As I'm hanging up the phone with him, I hear footsteps going up the stairs.
Okay.
But they're heavier footsteps than what is to be expected from my parents.
Jennifer hears an unfamiliar voice, so she opens the door to investigate. Once again, we'll see Jennifer extremely emotional, but it quickly goes away as the detective inquires further.
I opened my door. I peered out, and there was a person in what would have been my brother's room.
And where's your brother's room located?
Just a little bit down I could see from my doorway to his doorway, just
Okay.
a little bit down the hall.
The first intruder robs Jennifer at gunpoint before taking her to the first floor where she sees her parents sitting next to each other.
There's two other shadows, and I can see from where I was standing, my father was sitting on the right, and my mother was sitting On the left.
Sitting where?
On a couch. On our couch.
Sitting on the couch. Are they looking out towards you?
No, their backs are towards me.
Okay. And you're now on the ground level? Are you on the floor? Or on the
I'm
sitting on the
on the
stairs?
floor. I'm sitting on the floor.
All right, where are your hands?
They had tied my hands,
So let's
as
go.
I said.
Let's go back up to the stairs. Remember, we said take the other statement and whatever we've said before.
No, I said it earlier.
Okay.
Jennifer had made her first mistake. Everything she had said to this point lined up with the story she explained in the last interview, until now. She forgets to mention that they tied her hands behind her back before coming down to the first floor.
Before.
No, I said it earlier.
Okay, then we must let's get back to that area. I think you might have touched on it. We went back into the description. So where do you get your hands tied, and where does the string come from?
I'm not sure where the string comes from, but he had the string.
Okay.
And after I gave him my money, that's when he tied my hands.
She didn't say she was tied up earlier. She completely forgot to mention it. She has a moment of slight panic trying to convince the detective otherwise.
All I could see was that he had pushed her back onto the couch, and she
Who
kept
pushed her?
number 2.
Okay.
He was pushing her back onto the couch, and she kept saying, "Where's my purse? Where's my purse?" And the guy kept telling her to sit down, and I didn't want my mom to get hurt.
How many times does she get up and get pushed back down?
I'd say she got up twice.
And number 2?
Number 2 steps forward, and that's when my mom steps back and sits down.
Has number 2 uttered a word at this point in time?
I can't remember hearing him.
Okay. So we're just correcting what you said earlier, because you said earlier that it was number 2 who was asking where the purse is, what the purse is, and now you've said now it's number 1 guy who would initially...
I'm sorry, it's just...
No. It's all a purpose. The purpose here is clarifying what you're saying. So number 1 is...
I just don't want to...
Number 1 is the one who's doing the talking about the purse. Number 3 is focused on your dad's wallet. Okay. Number 2 pushes your mom back into place, into the seat.
She is then taken downstairs and sees her mom being interrogated by the second suspect of the whereabouts of the cash in the home. According to her first interview, the second suspect never said a word the entire time.
Okay. Do you get a good look at number 2 now of what he's wearing?
All I could tell was he had a vest, and his face was like a long oval face.
He had a vest?
No, hoodie.
Okay.
Dark hoodie.
Jennifer seems to be falling apart and continues to make contradictions in her story, forced to correct her mistakes with the detective. She is then asked about the second suspect and his appearance. In the first interview, she mentions that he was wearing a hoodie.
Okay, now, did you see them recover anything inside your mom and dad's room?
I did not see anything, no.
Are you sure? Because when we spoke the last time, there was some mention of some other money that went missing.
I believe when they were looking for my father's wallet, they had opened the drawer, and it was in an envelope.
What drawer would that have been in?
If you're at the doorway where I was standing on the left side, the bedside table.
Whose side of the bed is it?
That's my mother's side of the bed.
More than likely a total coincidence. Yet she looks to be praying that she gave the right answer. Fortunately for her, she was right in this occasion.
And approximately how much money?
I'm not sure how much she took out for our trip, but I can only estimate about a few $100s.
Few hundred, because at the last time you told me, you were pretty adamant about $1,100. So I'm curious to know how you came up with that number.
I believe because when we were at the border, we stopped at the duty free. My mother was deciding whether to use her U.S. currency or her U.S. currency or her Canadian currency.
So it was at that time you remember hearing $1,100? And is that the inference you're saying? Is that, because you're pretty solid saying that it was $1,100 that went missing, that was taken, and that you saw it when we spoke. And who took it? Who took possession of the money?
I'm sorry.
It's all right.
The detective lets the contradictions go, as they could be used against Jennifer in a court of law. She is then brought to the moment where the intruders have left and she is tied to the banister upstairs.
So let's come back to now. You're being taken to the banister in the upper
Sorry,
room.
I don't
Don't
remember.
apologize, okay? I'm going to try and ask you questions to try and clarify points, okay? If you don't remember, you don't remember. Okay, so there's no apologizing. The only reason you would apologize to me is if you've lied to me.
No.
Okay,
No, it's
so
then
in this case, then don't apologize to me. It's okay. Okay, I'm going to ask you questions to clarify points.
Okay.
You're now bound to the railing. Can you show me, can you stand up and turn around and tell me, just show on the camera, how your hands are bound? And how you are against the railing. You don't have to sit down. I just need to see how you were.
Just tell you.
The only reason that I'm trying to, I need to do this is that I'm also going to ask you is that so take this back take it out of a traumatizing event, which it is, and put yourself into a more clinical position, because I want to see how you could physically get your phone out of your waistband. We're obviously going to need to know that. It's very important. So traumatize away, now put yourself into just a state of, I need to mechanically show how I can get access to my phone. Okay, because that's obviously very relevant. We know you made the phone call, but questions are going to obviously raise is that if my hands are bound and I'm against a railing, how do I talk to a 911 operator? Okay, so clinically, this is now a clinical demonstration. Just stand up, focus in on how you did it. And I want you to stick that in your waistband as an example. Okay, so take your sweater off, because this will be a very smooth, very quick thing. It's a one-time demonstration. I'm not going to ask you to repeat it.
The detective wants to see the movements Jennifer would have had to make to call 911 while having her hands tied behind her back and tied to the banister. He is hoping her movements are impossible for the situation to contradict her story further.
They tied my upper arm
Yes?
around the banister,
Yes?
but my hands were bound together.
So your hands bound together, and this is the arm that's the strings wrapped around against the banister?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now how can you get to the phone? And how do you make the phone call?
Jennifer had either practiced this movement before or had a stroke of luck, because if she would have done it any other way, it would have been impossible for her to call 911.
911?
Mm-hmm.
And do you talk down like that?
Yes, I'm yelling at the phone like this.
And how can you hear?
I turned the volume on max.
Yes? So that's exactly the way that you're talking to her against the railing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's good enough. Sit down.
Jennifer is then brought to the moment right before she hears the gunshots.
At this point, I started hearing my parents get up. And they're moving. And my mom's yelling, "Where's my daughter? I want my daughter. Where's my daughter?" And I'm yelling, "Mom, I'm here."
Here. Jennifer, take a Kleenex and just take a minute.
You notice that she doesn't blow her nose or wipe her eyes, she just buries her face in the tissues. The detective later testified that it was left completely dry.
Okay. So we're now down in the basement. They're down in your parents are down in the basement. You don't know who's down there with them.
I heard pop. And then my mom. I heard her squeal.
Multiple shots are heard before she hears the intruders leaving through the front door.
Once the door closed, I heard my father. He ran up the stairs and all I could hear was moaning. Dad. Once I heard him starting to move, that's when I pulled out the phone and I was trying to call 911.
This is untrue. She only realizes her dad was alive midway through the 911 call, as you can hear true panic rushing through her voice.
Some people broke into our house to show us all his money. And I came from my parents yelling upstairs. Ma'am, where are you? What?
The rest of the interrogation, the detective is trying to figure out his next strategy with Jennifer, diving deep into her past, trying to figure out how and why this happened.
What I want to do now is I want to go into your past, okay? And start talking about things that have been going on with you.
The detective turns into Jennifer's therapist. She doesn't ask any questions as the detective shifts to her past. And what's interesting to me is that it seems that Jennifer has never been asked about her thoughts, looking like almost of a relief to Jennifer to get her emotions off her chest. The first topic is her parents and the extreme amount of pressure they put on her to succeed, which led to her faking her grades and university degree so she wouldn't be a disappointment to the family.
How did you feel about that? How did you feel about having to lie to your parents?
I felt guilty, but every time I tried to bring it up, there was just so much expectation.
Did you have any resentment towards them for this?
I chose what I chose, but in the end, I chose my family.
She is referring to when her father gave her an ultimatum, the choice to live at home and go back to school or completely be cut off from the family. The detective gathers information on Jennifer's past for 2 hours and 20 minutes. The detective ends this exchange by putting Jennifer under some pressure. He then switches back to the home invasion and how the intruders were able to gain access without breaking into the home.
I'm still trying to figure out how they got in your house. Like you didn't hear a doorbell, you didn't hear a door knock, you didn't hear a door kicked in, you didn't.
I was watching TV on the phone. I don't know how.
Yeah, I know. We went over that back and forth. We don't know how. So somehow they got into your house by getting through your mom down on the lower level, right? Because she's the only one who's down there.
She's the only one down there.
So it's very confusing. Generally, random events are not, in most cases, random. There's a rhyme or reason why they've come to your house. But from what you've told me inside the house, the only thing that you hear them saying to you is they're looking for money. They're not looking for a specific quantity of money?
No.
So you're telling me that you had no involvement in what happened, meaning not saying how the outcome came, but you had no involvement in any type of illegal activity that would have drawn you or the attention of you to have bad people come to your house looking for large sums of money. You're not involved in this any which way. Because the question obviously stands, Jennifer, is you're upstairs and they're downstairs.
No.
Right? So it's a natural concern why would they leave you alone? Why would they not do the same to you? You can't answer that question?
The only thing I can say is he said I cooperated. But I asked him to take me.
The number one guy said you cooperated. Who's to say this whole thing isn't a lie? That what you're telling me is a lie? Because if you are lying, it's the most cold-blooded thing that I've ever faced in my life. There is nothing that you've said to me today is a lie. Now, back to another very difficult question. But if I don't ask it, it's an obvious one. The resentment that you may have had towards your parents for the interference in your relationship and your life and essentially locking you down in your house.
At the end of the day, I love my parents and I chose to be with them. And if I wanted to, I could have just left, but I didn't. I wanted to stay with them and take care of them.
So this wasn't some evil plot that you thought up to...
Oh my God, no.
No interaction, no belief, you didn't have anything to do with this thing at all, whatsoever. You don't engage in illegal activity?
No.
Because you know that it will be a very easy thing to discredit you on, right? We're in the process of trying to add credibility to what you tell us, and that's through the process of asking people and doing whatever. Through that same process, it will be very easy to find the flaws in what you've said, which again then turns the focus back to you. Okay? It's a natural progress. It's a natural thing that investigators do. We eliminate people, or we draw our attention to them. It's a natural thing. It's not brain surgery. Okay?
The detective leaves the room for 20 minutes to allow Jennifer to sit in her own thoughts before ending her statement. He comes back one last time to add a little bit more psychological pressure that he disguises as reassurance.
We're done, essentially. How are you feeling?
Sorry, you really scared me.
Did I? What did I scare you about? Sit down and take a load off. Tell me how you're feeling and how I scared you. I don't want you walking away from here thinking I'm evil. I want you to walking around from here thinking that this guy is helping investigate my mom's murder and he's going to turn over every stone possible to make sure that we catch the people who do that. That's what I want you feeling. So I don't want you walking away from here thinking that I scared you or I'm a bad man. Sometimes we have to ask very, very difficult questions, but it's my job.
Jennifer leaves terrified, but she still believes the police is on her side. Police kept Jennifer under surveillance after this point of time. They tracked her every movement and spotted her at her mother's funeral 3 days later. According to bystanders, she was emotionless during her mother's funeral and kept her eyes on the floor or completely shut during the entire service. Jennifer's father miraculously was awoken from his coma a day prior and seemed to remember everything from the night of the incident. He would give an official hidden statement on November 16, and multiple parts of his story contradicted Jennifer's. The biggest detail is that she was never tied up, but was walking around freely, talking to the intruders like they were friends. He actually spoke to Jennifer over the phone, but pretended not to remember much and not confront her. The only issue with his statement is that he had suffered minor brain damage from the gunshot that could be used by the defense team to remove his statement in court altogether. Essentially, it was his word against Jennifer's, and their turbulent relationship would also work greatly for the defense's favor. York Regional Police knew they needed a confession to secure a conviction, and this would only be the beginning of what really happened that night. Keep your eyes open for part 2 as we break down Jennifer's confession, A Daughter from Hell. Don't forget to subscribe to the Crime House for more true crime interrogations. I'll see you in the next one.